Welcome back. So, we've got a really interesting submission in front of us.
Very.
It's a raw transcript of a Q&A session with President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. It covers, well, everything from the Gaza war to Iran, and even a potential pardon for Netanyahu.
A lot to unpack.
A lot. Let's dive in, because there's some real power in this material, but also some significant challenge. The initial strength, I think, is just how raw it is. It really captures that unfiltered energy of a high-stakes press scrum.
It does. You get these very specific high-confidence claims that are just, essential for understanding the viewpoint.
Exactly. Like the hostage numbers, 255 total, 254 out. Or that figure for Ukrainian losses, 26,000 a month.
Right. That authenticity is the core asset here.
But it's also the source of the first major structural hurdle. The rapid-fire, highly disparate subject changes, they severely obscure the core diplomatic purpose of this whole meeting.
I completely agree. I think that fragmentation is the biggest barrier for a reader right now.
Yeah.
If you're coming to this to understand, say, the U.S.-Israel relationship on Gaza, you're just going to hit topic fatigue almost immediately.
Right. The flow is just constantly getting interrupted. It shifts so abruptly from these huge regional topics. Gaza disarmament, the Iran situation.
And then suddenly you're reading about an alleged explosion in a Venezuelan dock area.
Yes. Or a supposed strike on Putin's residence. It's whiplash.
It is. And that whiplash forces the reader to constantly recontextualize what they're reading, which just dilutes the whole point.
It dilutes the focus on what should be the center of this doc, the Israel-U.S. partnership. So I think the biggest opportunity here is just to make the reader's job easier.
That seems right. What we have is a chronological record of, chaos. What we need is thematic cohesion.
So the suggestion here is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Recategorize the transcript. Group it thematically into logical sections.
And that move, it takes it from just a raw Q&A file to a strategically organized political document.
So where would we even start with that? Without losing the voice.
Well, you have to give the major policy areas their own breathing room.
Right.
So one really effective way to do this is to create a dedicated section. Maybe call it Gaza and the peace process.
Okay.
And in that block, you group together everything on Hamas disarmament, the Reconstruction timeline, where he uses that phrase, pretty soon.
And the mention of Turkish forces and the status of that one remaining hostage's body.
Exactly. The only one left. Suddenly the reader gets 5 solid minutes just on that one critical topic.
Before they have to pivot.
Right. And you can apply that same logic to the other national security issues that go beyond the...
Absolutely. Isolate all the discussion about Iran.
All of it.
The comments like knock the hell out of them, or the support for an Israeli attack if they push forward with missiles or nuclear development.
And the desire for a deal. All of that stuff is incredibly high stake.
And putting those comments together into a single high-impact foreign policy block, that just elevates their collective weight, doesn't it?
It does. It does. This structural shift, it's not just about flow. It actually maximizes the document's utility for anyone trying to analyze the policy.
Which is why the listener submitted it in the first place.
Precise. And once that structure is fixed, we can zoom in on the specific claims within those new sections. And that brings us to our second big opportunity. Key statements of historical significance, or, these controversial data points, are presented with very high confidence, but they lack any essential framing.
Yes.
This is where that rawness starts to become a liability, not an asset. The weakness is that the transcript is just filled with these sensational, specific claims that are just dropped into the conversation. Dropped in with no source, no context about how contentious they are.
And we're talking about a few different kinds of claims here, right?
I think so. You've got the hard numbers, like the 97% reduction in seaborne drug trafficking, or that 26,000 Ukrainian casualty figure.
Then you have the personal political declarations. The every hostage just about that's been released was released because of me.
And the policy interventions.
Without context, these just look like unsupported boasts, not substantiated policy points. And there's a real risk there.
What's the risk?
The risk is that if a reader sees 5 or 6 of these high-octane, unsourced claims in a row, they might start to question the seriousness of the entire document.
Even the parts that are factually verifiable?
Exactly.
So the argument then is that the material needs some kind of editorial layer function as a serious document.
It does. The suggestion for improvement has to be augmenting the raw text. You could use annotations, footnotes, maybe an editorial overlay.
Something that identifies these specific assertions and either adds context or at least alerts the reader that these are high-confidence personal declarations.
And that layer needs to be surgical. You can't just put a blanket disclaimer on the whole thing.
No.
Take the claim that 97% of the drugs coming in by the ocean are gone. That's a specific policy claim.
Right.
So a simple footnote could detail the specific maritime enforcement measures that are mentioned, like hitting the boats and targeting that implementation area in Venezuela.
So you're grounding the assertion in the actions cited within the document itself.
You are. You're not letting it just float there untethered.
And for the more political claims, we could even use a bolder approach, something like a call-out box.
Absolutely. When he lists the team involved in hostage releases, Steve Witt, Jared Kushner, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth,
And then makes that incredibly politicized claim that every hostage was released because of me.
you can use a call-out box there to highlight the full scope of that claim, especially the follow-up that 0 hostages were released under the next administration.
So you're not judging its truthfulness.
Not at all. You're just underscoring the intense political assertion that's being made. It's a statement about legacy, and it should be framed that way.
We should probably apply that same kind of thinking to the direct intervention in another country's domestic affairs.
Oh, definitely. The specific comments about a pardon for Netanyahu are a vital piece of this.
He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon?
That quote is a direct political intervention on a very sensitive Israeli legal matter.
So isolating that, maybe with bold text or a short explanatory header.
Yes, it enhances the document's significance because it clearly flags the cross-border influence being discussed. It elevates it from a throwaway comment to a major diplomatic declaration.
That structured approach to context is it's critical for impact, which brings us to our final area of focus. And that's the exit. How this whole conversation just kind of ends.
The concluding personal interactions, the ones involving the media, they create a really abrupt shift in tone.
They do. And it has the potential to overshadow all the significant policy discussion that came just before it.
It's a classic narrative crater, isn't it? The weakness is just the sheer whiplash of that transition.
You go from global security concerns, Syria, Israel, that alleged strike on Putin's residence,
Straight into this highly informal personal commentary on journalists and a staff member.
It's the contrast that's so jarring. One minute you're talking about the need for a strong ally in Israel, how you're not going to get a choir boy to lead Syria,
And the next minute, it's a joke about a lunch invitation being a bribe.
or that instruction to let journalists stand in a driveway and melt.
It's just that sudden shift to assessing a staff member, Margot, as being too nice. It just deflates the dramatic weight of everything that came before.
It really does. It reduces the policy seriousness. So, for the sake of the document's, its historical weight, we need to manage that ending better.
Right. The policy discussion deserves a proper close.
So the suggestion then is to clearly demarcate a structural bound, frame that final bit as an observation on the media environment, not as the final summary thought of a major diplomatic meeting.
Okay, so how would you do that without just cutting the material? I mean, it is valuable for context.
I think there are 2 strong options. The first is a clean editorial cut.
A hard stop.
A hard stop. You define the closing point right after the last policy-relevant statement. That would probably be after the discussion on Israel and the new Syrian president.
Ending there would ensure the document concludes on a high-level geopolitical note of substance.
It gives the whole thing the gravitas it deserves. But if the listener feels that interaction with the staff is crucial for atmosphere,
There's another way to do it.
there is.
If the goal is to keep the full raw exchange, maybe because that closing chatter is revealing, then you just need to introduce a clear subheader.
A signpost for the reader.
Exactly. A signpost that says, the serious discussion is over, we're now in the closing observations. Something like media environment and post-event commentary.
And you'd place that right before the talk about the lunch invitation.
Right. It provides that necessary structural break. It acknowledges the tonal shift. It lets the reader know they've moved from the main event to the after show.
That's a great distinction. It's really all about honoring the material's authenticity while maximizing the reader's focus. We've covered a lot of ground today on this.
It's a powerful submission.
So, to quickly summarize the 3 main actionable steps here. First, address the structure and flow. Recategorize the fragmented subjects into focused thematic blocks.
Second, enhance the significance by contextualizing those high-impact controversial claims using strategic annotations or footnotes.
And finally, manage that abrupt closing tone. Structurally frame the informal media commentary so it doesn't undermine the gravity of the policy points that precede it.
Look, This material is a political goldmine. It really is. That's because of the raw authenticity and the high-stakes claims that are preserved in it. You have all the data you need.
It's all there.
It's all there. Once you tackle these structural issues, organization, context, and closure, the document will go beyond just being a transcript. It'll become a powerful, highly influential editorial resource.
And that will maximize its impact on every single reader.
Absolutely.
We agree completely. That's how you turn raw data into essential reading. We invite you to implement these suggestions and please submit your revised work back to us for a follow-up.